The type of gay bar experience I was looking for, I would have to take the hour-long trek into Boston. I landed at Club Cafe, 209 Columbus Avenue, Boston, Massachusetts, 02116. I went on a Thursday night because I didn't want the weekend crowds to overwhelm me. I sat at the end of the bar, ordered a gin martini, and watched an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. It was accomplishment enough for me at the time. I was about to pack up and head out when a sharply dressed Venezuelan man named William sat next to me. I summoned the courage to compliment his watch, and my evening evolved from there. The two of us somehow made friends with a heterosexual couple having an extramarital affair. I politely accepted more than a few drinks on their dollar. The four of us then transitioned into the dance floor, where, in my inebriated state, I somehow managed to negotiate William's tongue into my mouth. This was the gay bar experience I was looking for. As closing time drew near, William told me he would feel guilty if he brought me, as sloshed as I was, back to his place. He did not, evidently, have any strong feelings about the idea of me walking alone around Boston after 1 o'clock in the morning until I was sober enough to drive an hour home. I handed him my phone, and he and...
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the latest. I am getting an echo here, and I don't know why. It's like all the gremlins are all over the place. Hold on for 1 second. I hope that cleared up. Somehow there seems to be gremlins in the computer today. I don't know what's happening here. Let me close out, and we're going to start again in a few moments. Hang tight, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm not getting an echo. That's wonderful. That, of course, was Francis Garner at the beginning of the program. He's coming out to us live today from Provincetown. Somebody has to do it, and he's the one. Welcome to the Friday edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Today we're going to talk about advocacy in our art. And I want to talk about this at this point because going into this profession, I never went into this profession to be an advocate. However, over the last few years, I feel that it's very important that all of us use our art to make sure that our voices are heard. And that's regardless of what side you're on politically. This is Pride Month. And right now, I am hearing that a lot of corporations are pulling out of a lot of Pride celebrations because they are afraid of retribution or pullback by going against the current administration. And my thoughts about this, and I know it's easy for me to say this from where I sit, but until we say, bring it on, enough already, this kind of garbage is going to happen over and over and over again. We need to stand up for what we believe in, what our moral compass tells us to do, and we need to operate from that point of view. And that's my soapbox for today. So I'm very excited to bring our first guest on. He's actually in Provincetown, as I said, and he will be appearing this Sunday night at the Post Office Cafe, one of my favorite rooms to play in Provincetown. And so, Francis, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
And I love the fact that you're in your car. I did an entire interview with Andrea McCardle, and the only place that she could go to get a signal and to do what she needed to do was from her car. So you're following in very good footsteps.
I'm happy to hear it. I didn't really have any other option. I suppose I could have sat at the Lobster Pot across the street, but it might have been slightly more distracting ambiance.
I apologize for the glitches and everything that we were having at the beginning of the show, but sometimes those things happen and I have no control over it. But you're in Provincetown now. What is the current vibe in Provincetown, especially this time of year and this being Pride Month? And are you feeling any of the, I guess, pressures that we're all feeling in our community right now with what's going on in the world, and how is that affecting, if at all, a town like Provincetown?
Well, truthfully, I've been here since Monday, and it's been pretty quiet. But that being said, people are starting to come in by the hordes. Tomorrow, I believe, is actually the Pride parade in Provincetown, so I'm expecting there to be quite an affair, and I'm excited to see it. It's my first time in here in Provincetown during Pride Month. That being said, I mean, every show that I've been to starts with some sort of acknowledgement that it's so important to laugh in the time like these and to, allow yourself to have fun, even despite everything that we're as a community facing. I mean, I'm not sure what sort of language I'm supposed to use on your show here, but I'll just say I saw some colorful T-shirts worn by a group of men on a park bench just prior to getting into the car here, with regards to the current administration. So I suppose the atmosphere is one of defiance, to say the least.
Do you consider yourself an advocate in the arts, or do you let your art be your voice? In other words, some of us are out there with our picket signs, as one of our guests has doing almost every week, is out there protesting. But are you finding that the work that you're doing is giving a message to our community? Or do you choose, and whatever your answer is the right answer, or do you choose not to bring that into the work that you do?
So, incidentally, the show that I'm doing, Miss Otis Regrets, is inherently has a political message to it. It's sort of an artsy-fartsy little thing that's not your typical cabaret experience, but it's divided into two parts. And the first part is styled as after a 1950s era radio show. And I wrote the fictitious third-person story of a man named Carl Otis, who falls victim to the Lavender Scare in the 1950s when the federal government was purging gay and lesbian workers from the workforce. And then the second half is styled after like a modern day podcast, and is about my own life and how I was affected psychologically and whatever else by the federal government's stance on gay rights, and how the legacy of Eisenhower's Executive Order 10450, which was the banning of the effective banning of homosexuals in the workforce, and how that lived on even through Bill Clinton, basically updating that with "Don't ask, don't tell," and it's the message behind it is supposed to be one that speaks to the amount of progress we've made and how much we still have yet to make. I don't explicitly address current day politics because it's more about it's supposed to be more about the history leading up to this moment. But in that way, it is. It's about as political as I can get.
Now, I want to ask you very quickly, and then we're going to bring on our next guest. And you'll stick around. We're going to have a round table conversation when everyone shows up. And by the way, Sharon, I see you in the background, so I see that you're there. But I want to ask you, have you performed this show before, or will Sunday night be your debut of the show?
So it's got a little bit of a funny history to it. Its origins is actually in Provincetown Cabaret Fest 2024 when I did a half-hour spotlight version. And then I expanded it to an hour-long version that I did do at Club Cafe back in January, but it has evolved even more since then. I've got a whole set with me now. I've actually, I don't know if you can see it. I schlepped an office desk with me And I've got an antique microphone back here somewhere. You know what? Being in my car really worked out. This is my 1950s microphone. So it's been done before, but it takes a different shape every time.
Well, Francis, let's bring on our next guest. I am very excited that my dear friend Barbara Garshman is here today. She has a book that's come out called You Can't Stop Me, From Sharecropper's Daughter to Chief of Police. And talk about being an advocate. I mean, the story is so incredible that she has chosen to tell about this other person. And I want to tell everyone, call your favorite bookseller or your library and request this book. It's very easy to go through Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but if we can support these independent bookstores, I think that it's very important to do so. And that, too, is a form of advocacy. And here she is. As I take this off the screen, bear with me for just a moment. Here you are. And there she is, Barbara Garshman. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine.
So, Barbara, you and
let me just say something about the book. Because it's on Amazon, it is not in small bookstores. That's something you learn when you self-publish.
No, but I want to tell you.
But if you ask for it,
call the bookstores and request it.
Right. So they let them know that they're missing out if they don't have the book.
So, but it is available on Amazon. I do want to stress that. So I just started reading it, and it is fascinating. It's a page turner. Tell us a little bit about the story and why you chose to tell the story.
Well, I was looking for a project to do. I was in television. I had been director of primetime development, East Coast for NBC. And then now I was trying to do producing and stuff. And I was looking for a good story that I could make into a movie. And I was doing an article. I also do magazine journalism, and I was doing an article on racism in law enforcement. And my sister, who lived in Mississippi at the time and has been destroyed by living in Mississippi, that's another story. She told me about this woman, this Black female police officer in Mississippi, who was the first female police officer in her small town, her small racist town. And I got in touch with her, and I became totally enamored of her and her struggle to not just be the first, but to be accepted, to be able to be a police officer. All the men kept trying to kill her. They kept trying to kill her. The whole town was very corrupt and very racist and so she was fighting and standing up against the whole town. So she told me the story, but I was doing an article on racism, so I let it pass. I thought, oh, that's wonderful, nice talking to you. And then one day I thought, wait a minute, this is the story, and I want to tell it. And this is where the whole thing comes in of what is our responsibility as artistic people. I found that, yes, I wanted it to sell. Yes, I wanted it to be wonderful. But the story became the most important thing. I was so impressed with this woman, and I felt that her story was not just important for her or whatever, but that it could help people who are trying to overcome all kinds of odds. And her determination to help the Black citizens of her town at her own expense. And I got involved in that whole fight. I was down there. There were court, there's all kinds of things that happened. But and I was going to do a quick thing. I was just going to do a movie about it. A quick thing, not a quick thing, but but she had lost the trial that she shouldn't have lost, that had to do with her being assistant chief of police. She should have gotten the job and she didn't. So I brought it to New York, and Melvin Van Peebles and I took her out for a drink. And I don't know if people know Melvin Van Peebles. He was a very famous Black performer, actor, musician, playwright, director, whatever. Melvin had to leave America and went to France to get his career started because he was a Black man, and years ago, and he couldn't. So I thought, after what he had been through, it might help Vicky. So she got drunk and sat on his lap, and she was fine. She didn't care about what can I say? But Melvin said to me, this is an amazing story. You can't do this. I don't think you can do it as a movie. I said, what do you mean? He said, there's too much to talk about. And I'm thinking, there's like, what's my commitment? I thought, oh shit, what he's saying is I have to do a book. And if I do a book, it's going to be years. P.S. But I decided to do it because it was the right thing to do. There was no way to really tell the story in the right way. For me, there was so much I wanted to share with people that I ended up doing a book. It took me over 20 years to get the book done, to get it to be the way I wanted to before I then tried to publish it, and then ultimately published it by myself.
Well, I want to bring on our next guest, but before I do, I want to ask, how did this book change your life?
It taught me about what was important to me as an artist, because I went through so many challenges over the years, writing the book, then trying to get an agent, then trying to publish it myself, all these things that I had to do. And I didn't give up. I wanted to. There were so many uncomfortable things that I had to do to make this happen. But I decided I was going to do whatever it took, even if it didn't become famous, even if it didn't become a movie, which I'm still hoping maybe something will happen with that.
It has to.
But it changed me because it made me realize that I really wasn't a writer. I was an artist, and that I was capable of going to the mat. I was capable of doing what I needed to do to stand up for my vision and for this person that I cared so much about. I didn't want her to be disappointed, so I couldn't be disappointed. I had to show up.
Thank you for showing up. And speaking of showing up, our next guest has a new book out called Behind the Curtain: The Mistakes, Lessons Learned, and Triumphs of Interviewing Celebrities. And I don't think that there's anyone that this man has not interviewed. I was lucky enough to be interviewed by him just a few weeks ago. Call Me Adam. And I love that title to begin with. But Adam, make sure that you're unmuted before you begin to speak. There you are.
Yeah.
I am such a fan of what you do. Do you consider yourself, through the medium of podcasting and interviewing, to be an advocate yourself in terms of the product that you're putting out into the world?
I love that question, Richard. And I just want to say thank you for having me today. And I'm very happy to be here with everybody. I don't know if I consider myself, I don't know if I consider myself an advocate, but through my interviews, I am able to bring, what's the word I'm trying to look for? I'm able to bring issues to the forefront. So I'm not going to be the person who goes to a protest and does the rah, rah, rah with my signs. But through an interview, I am going to ask questions about things going on politically or socially. And that's how I use my platform to advocate for maybe somebody who doesn't have a voice or a platform to speak up about something, or I can bring awareness to issues through my interviews.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you, I mean, when you're putting together an interview, the questions that were asked of me were, it seemed that you had done your research, that you knew the questions, the answers, or that you, in the direction that you want me to go. What is your process in terms of putting the questions together for whomever your subject is?
So you hit the nail on the head, Richard. I do a lot of research on each of my guests before I send the questions. I really personalize each interview to the person that I'm speaking with. And depending on what I see in my research, sort of formulates the way that I want to try to have the interview to go. So, like the interview with you, I specifically I knew I wanted to talk about your friendship with Carol Channing. And I was so inspired by the kind of show that you were doing with everything you've always wanted to know about Richard Skipper, but we're afraid to ask, in that it's not rehearsed. And I wanted to know more about that kind of how you prepare for that. So I definitely chose those kinds of questions. For somebody else, I recently interviewed an actress, Erica Hubbard, and she grew up on the south side of Chicago and had a very rough upbringing. So my questions to her were more about her upbringing, how why she felt she was able to leave her situation where maybe somebody else might not be able to. So through her story, I'm able to, I feel like, bring other issues to the forefront that maybe I wouldn't normally be discussed somewhere.
Well, I want to ask you the same question that I just asked Barbara, essentially, and how many interviews have you done so far?
I have done over 2,200 interviews in the past 16 years.
Yes. What have you learned about yourself from an interviewer? And of course, maybe this is something that people have to get your book to find out.
I do talk a lot about my story and my history in my book, but I would say what I've learned about myself is my tenacity and determination to keep going, no matter what the obstacles are. And that sort of has been a pattern my whole life. But I really do love storytelling, and I love telling people's stories. So when somebody says yes to me for an interview, I'm getting a moment to tell part of their story. I mean, there's so much more to you, Richard, than just your friendship with Carol Channing and your show, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Richard Skipper, but We're Afraid to Ask. But in this moment, that was part of you. That was a part of your story that I was able to bring to my audience and to let them know about. And I was able to touch on a few other things. So I always try to focus on whatever the project is at the moment. And then I try to bring in a few other things about their life based upon my research.
Now, before we bring our next guest out on, I want to ask you, who is the biggest, and maybe you don't want to name a name, but the biggest get that you wanted to get, and when they said yes, you practically did cartwheels? Besides myself, of course.
Besides you, Richard, the biggest get that I had, I'm gonna have to say two, because I cried after getting both of them. One was Rue McClanahan, who you may know as Blanche from the Golden Girls, and the second,
and we worked together, by the way.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
And the second was Olivia Newton-John, who you may know as the 4-time Grammy Award-winning singer, or Sandy from the movie musical Grease.
Wow. Wow. And you talk about both in your book.
I do. Yes.
Well, as they say, and all of you are wonderful, but the best is yet to come. And that's the name of the show that you can all see next week at the Triad. I'm going to be there. And the three of you, if you're going to be in New York, please join me. Let's make a party of this. And don't take my word for it. Let's get just a little sample of what this show is like.
When your lonely heart has learned its lesson, some enchanted evening, you'd be his if only he would call. When you hear him call you, that's the time you miss him most of all. Every street's a boulevard in old New York. I like the people you meet on Mulberry Street. Have you ever been there? Taking a trip to explore brand new cities, Victoria's Secret to lift up your titties. When hearing a lark sing, my heart flies on wings, and Paris is gaudily, bodily, physically, aphrodisically Paris. C'est lit pour moi, ma poulie dans la ville. Il me l'a dit, la chérie pour la ville. The Hasidic Jew replied, where else in New York can I park my car for 2 weeks for only $15? I long to hold her hands once more, as in days gone by, and ask her to forgive me for things I did that made her cry. To that wonderful Yiddish I took from the shelf. York, New York, it's a hell of a town.
And hello, Sharon, and welcome to the show. You need to bring yourself down a little bit lower so we can see your face. Or just your camera.
You really need to see. Okay, here, I'll just.
There you are. Just get
I'll
comfortable.
fall asleep, you wake me up.
So, Sharon, first of all, welcome to the show. And I want to begin by asking you, do you consider yourself an advocate? And do you find that your work speaks for you, or do you put your advocacy through your work?
Thank you for that wonderful exposure. And I think that's what I advocate. I advocate the love I have for performance. I advocate that I can bring music to the hearts and the souls of people, that I can bring joy into their lives, especially when so much of what music does to people is they're being deprived of what they love to do. And they're being deprived of the joy of what should be part of their everyday lives. And so I advocate the art by doing the best I can, by bringing and evoking emotion and transporting people from where they may have been when they walked in, and to how music affects people. It affects babies, it affects people, it affects everybody in modern life. And it's very important that people are surrounded by the arts. So by doing what I do, I feel I'm a great advocate of the arts.
That's great. Now, Sharon, I am getting a little bit of feedback. So I want to make sure that you don't have any other devices open. I think we lost her. She'll be back.
Say that again.
I said we were getting a little bit of a feedback when you spoke.
How's that? Is that better now?
I'm still getting a little bit of a feedback. So just make sure that you don't have any other windows open.
None are open.
No, I mean windows on your computer, not outside.
No, there aren't. No, I understand.
Oh, okay. So have you always been an artist, Sharon? I mean, have you performed your whole life? Or is this something that you came to later in life?
I went to Juilliard as a kid. I was the typical kid that sit down, I'll entertain you. And I studied my craft from piano to dance. And then people told my parents, you should develop the instrument that someone gave me. And I fell very naturally into that modality of absorbing everything I could, be it piano, dance, voice. And I started to sing professionally when I was very young. And then I think I got my equity card when I was 18. I was on the road with Howard Keel and Carousel.
Wow.
And my mom said, oh, I hear that. I'm so sorry for that.
Yeah, it's coming through your device, whatever. You've got another window or something open that's causing that.
Okay. And and then after Howard Keel, Harold Prince cast me in Fiddler. And I think I don't remember the exact sequence, but I went up to the door of Radio City Music Hall as a kid. And I think I was in my early 20s. And I said I was there to see the conductor, and he took me into the elevator up to the 4th floor, and I did not have an appointment. And I said, I'm here to sing for you. And I sang People from Funny Girl. And next thing I knew, I was in rehearsal for 4 shows a day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
At Radio City. Yeah, it was a thrill because, I used to sit there as a kid and look and only dream that I could be on that stage.
Well,
So
I mean, I have to ask you, what is that experience like to be standing on the stage of Radio City Music Hall probably, it is the largest stage that we have here in New York and possibly in the United States.
Yeah, I think it is definitely. It's thrilling. I pinched myself 4 shows a day, 7 days a week. And I love to see my mom and dad out to give them that pleasure. Because one of the things that when you ask about emotion, what it felt like is I had a little different course growing up in New York because I had polio when I was a kid.
Wow.
And so I was one of the very, very lucky people, but it only affected my arm. But it did, curtail some opportunities, but I never let that stop me from pursuing the love I had of performance and the arts. And so when you talk about advocacy, I was the best marketer for involving the world in the arts because nothing stopped me from doing what I love.
Good for you. Well, what I'd like to do with each of you is I've put together some questions, and this is based on advocacy in your art. And I'm going to start with you, Francis. And the question is, how often do you ask other artists, what can I do for you? Now you're dropping out. Francis, you're dropping out. We're having all kinds of issues here today, folks. I'm sorry. But we can barely hear you. That's better.
What do you need me to do?
Okay, you're better. What you just did is fine. So how often do you ask other artists, what can I do for you?
So in what sense? In terms of furthering their art?
Furthering their art, furthering their whatever they are advocating. It could be their art, it could be a cause.
I'm the type of person who, if you were within reach, I will go out of my way to help people in life. I'm not sure that I can point to an instance in which I've helped develop somebody else's art form, because I suppose I'm a little too self-absorbed on my own. But I am the type to visit in the hospital unannounced if I've caught wind of it and drop by. Unannounced seems to be a running theme, but drop by people's houses if I'm getting the sense that they're lonely. But in terms of helping somebody else's art, I suppose I'm a little bit selfish.
Okay, and Barbara, I want to ask, in a time when so much feels divided in this country, how can the arts bridge conversations and communities, in your own thoughts?
Whoa. Don't ask me a big question, Richard. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I do help people a lot. From my experience as director of primetime development East Coast for NBC, I was involved in developing over 100 hours of on-air programming. So I learned a lot about how to look at projects, how to see what works and what doesn't, and how to help writers, producers, people make their material better or workable or whatever. And so I find that I love the idea of people working together to create something new and different. And I think now where all of us are, with the entertainment, well, the whole world, but in the entertainment arts, there's so few opportunities right now. There's so much terror going on, whatever. People aren't getting work, even people who have worked all the time for years. And so I feel that we are all have to take care of each other. And that's what should be happening in the world, not just with the creative arts, but we all are in the same boat in a way. Maybe one person has a show right now, or one person's book got produced, or, whatever other field you're in. But then the next minute you get something. And then I think we have to be willing to, there's got to be room for all of us I think that we have to help each other. And I find that when I work with trying to help other people with their projects, it's helping me because the more that I see what they're doing, it gives me ideas and it helps me. And I think that we have to do, and I think we have to, it's important that we stand up because we're the ones with the words, whether it's with music or on printed page or theater. We are the ones that have the words that know, but that regular people, I mean that other people who don't have that facility, they don't know how to say it. So it's majorly important for us to use the words to help all of us communicate.
That's great.
Responsibility.
Well, I want to mention our next guest has just arrived. And she next week is going to be at the Laurie Beechman Theater, my home base here in New York. And the show is called Fashion, Food, and Men, Secrets Revealed. And see me after the show and I'll share all of my secrets on all of those topics. But she's here, Pamela Morgan.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, I'm so glad that you got here. We're talking about arts and, advocacy in our art. But obviously, before we jump into that subject with you, tell us a little bit about your upcoming show.
Well, you just saw the title, Girl Talk, and it's going to be a very fun and revealing show. There'll be some personal stories that I'm telling, which are very meaningful. But they relate to everybody. And we're doing a lot of great songs. And I have two terrific backup singers with me. And Mark Nadler has really directed a fantastic show.
And you have a choreographer. I mean, this is a production.
Yeah, it is a real this time. Yeah.
Now, have you been back to the Laurie Beechman since it's been renovated?
No, I haven't. I mean, I went to see it very briefly before I booked the show, so I did see it for a few minutes, but I hear it's just fantastic.
It is. I was there last Friday night, and it's just a great room. Tom and Michael, if you happen to be watching, you're doing a phenomenal job there, so thank you. So just love it. Pamela, let me ask you, because I've got these questions that I'm putting together here. When did you, do you consider yourself, first of all, an advocate, or do you feel that your art speaks for you?
Oh, I think my art speaks for me. I'm not necessarily an advocate, but I believe that my art has a message to people, and I use it to inspire others. And certainly, I'm an older actor, I should say, and I think I inspire others to get on stage and do it, even at this stage in our life.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this, and that's the perfect answer that leads into this question. When did you first realize that your art could be a form of advocacy? And was there a moment that everything shifted for you as an artist on stage?
Let's see. I think after I did my first show, One Singular Sensation, and
oh no.
One Singular Sensation. Are you still there, Pam? I happen to have seen that show. It was wonderful. So, Pam, are you still there? Hopefully, I tell you, the gremlins have taken over today. So we'll get back to Pamela when she comes back. God willing. There she is.
Okay. Sorry. If I turn the sound off, can you hear me? Not off.
No, if you turn the sound off, I won't be able to hear you.
Okay. So anyway, so after I did the first show and people were so complimentary of me, I realized I was doing something that a lot of people wish that they could do. And so I became, I guess, a lot more of an example for others.
Well, let me, if I may, tell a little bit about your story, because I saw the show and I loved it. I think I saw it twice.
Wow.
Yes, I did see it twice. if I remember correctly, if I didn't remember correctly, you're going to correct me.
I will.
But you got cast to do the national tour of A Chorus Line.
Right.
And your father or your parents did not want you to go on this tour.
That's correct.
And so you chose not to do it.
Right.
And it did change the trajectory of your whole life.
Completely.
But this show was really, first of all, I think coming to terms with that period in your life where the road did change for you. And at this point in your life, embracing it and saying, this is my time. How was that?
That was perfect. You want to be my PR person?
Yes. You've got a great PR team. So, Nora, if you're watching, great job. But anyway, so how did that show affect you in terms of, really coming to terms and embracing the fact that it's still there, baby?
Well, first of all, it was such a big challenge because I'd never done anything like that. And the fact that I actually got on stage and did my own one-woman show, that was tremendous for me. And it built so much confidence inside of me that basically I can do anything I set my mind to. And I think that me doing this, as I said, inspired others that they could do something that they wanted to do, that they were passionate about, if they put their mind to it and worked at it hard, because it's hard work, as you know.
But it was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful show. Adam, I'm going to come to you with this next question. How do you define, advocacy within your own artistic practice? We've already talked about the fact that you do interview so many people, but obviously people tune in also not just because of your subjects, because it's Adam Rothenberg who is bringing these subjects to life. So what is it about your own work that you feel is raising awareness and, getting your own message through the people that you interview?
Well, I feel like it's through my research and of who I'm interviewing that allows me to be an advocate for a wide range of subjects. And I also have to have some investment in the person's story that I want to tell. So I'm not going to say yes to everybody who wants to do an interview, nor am I going to reach out to every single person to try to get an interview with them, because it has to align with me somehow. Mm-hmm. So whether that means that I'm a fan of their work, or maybe there's something about their story that piqued my interest. And, while I have been very fortunate to interview a lot of well-known celebrities, I have also built my platform around interviewing artists that have just started out or are at the beginning of their career, or maybe they're not as well known as some other people, but they've had a long history in theater or TV. So there's just something has to resonate with me in order for me to want to tell a part of their story. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it may be around a certain month, for example, in June with Pride Month, or October with Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But also, I will probably also want to make sure that the cause that I'm maybe trying to help give a voice to is something that I'm interested in, or that I feel like I can help advocate for.
That's great. Sharon, who is an artist, past or present, whose advocacy through their art inspires you?
Oh my goodness. Bette Midler comes to mind. And it falls very much, when she did the baths, and she had such a cult following, and she really appealed to various demographics when she first started, and she has just taken her art from movies to TV to huge concerts, and whenever I've been around her, the few times, there's an aura about her, and she's phenomenal. I don't know why she came to mind, the wings beneath my wings. Whatever.
Well, I'm going to go a step further, and her advocacy for our gardens and for keeping New York beautiful.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
Incredible choice of to choose from. Frances, getting back to you for advice, what advice would you give to young artists who want to infuse their work with meaning or purpose, but don't know exactly how to get started? I mean, obviously, and it's very interesting. You also have a show in addition to your current show about dating after 30. Something I hope I never have to do again after any age. But what advice would you give to someone, let's say, that wants to create the types of shows that you are creating and putting out there?
So, I would say, so this is actually my third show. My first show was a show that nobody saw.
We're still getting a lot of feedback with you, Frances.
Oh, no. I'm not sure how to help the situation. I'm sorry.
No, when you move, it helps a little bit. So,
Richard?
Yes?
If I may say, I'm very optimistic about the advocacy, if I may add.
Yes.
I have 2 grandchildren, and they are one particularly is very involved in the arts. And I want to believe there's hope, because the schools where we live, and I believe it's true, are doing what they can despite the cutbacks. I think it has to emanate from that level, that they're taught the love of the arts and exposed to as much as possible. And I see hope from personal experience that children will be turned on and continue what we've all tried to do. I'd like to think that anyway.
Well, I mean, thank you for bringing that up. I do want to say arts and education is a platform that I'm very involved in. And the unfortunate thing is that in most schools, the arts are the first cuts.
I know.
Over and over and over again. So this is something that we all have to fight for. And especially right now, with possible funding for the National Endowment for the Arts, NPR, PBS, we need it now more than ever. So anything that anybody can do to help in those departments is really necessary. So thanks for bringing that up. Frances.
What I was trying to drive at is essentially to trust your instincts. I mean, I'm still noting that I'm still in the very beginning stages of my career as a cabaret artist, but this is actually, Miss Otis Regrets is my third show. Dating Gay Over the Hill, Dating Gay Over 30 was my second show. The first one was called Am I Doing It Right? And it was supposed to be a shtick about including all of the bullet points that other people suggested need to be included in a cabaret show. And what I found was that what I came up with was a completely vanilla and boilerplate version of what I thought an audience would be expecting from a cabaret show. So when I came to writing Over the Hill, Dating Gay Over 30, I went in a completely different direction. The clip that you played, for instance, was entirely of me speaking. It's, I'm 75% of my shows are me telling stories, and 25% is me singing, which is not at all the ratio that anybody suggested to me. So in terms of giving advice to creating something, I would say find your inspiration and run with it. Don't let other people talk you out of doing something that feels like a natural choice. Did that answer the question?
Absolutely, it did, and that's a perfect answer. Barbara, have you ever faced resistance or criticism for taking a stand through your work? And how did you respond? And of course, I want to let everyone know, for those who don't know, you were very involved for years with NBC with their programming. So did you ever run into resistance in terms of in terms of the stories that you wanted to get across?
Well, those were more, they were not my stories. They were the programming department came up with these things, but we were doing a movie on the Cuban Missile Crisis, and it was shut down. And you should have seen, I was running around the offices at NBC. What, do we live in Russia? What's going on? Little did I know that we would come to this day. I think there's so much. Well, this was a long time ago, but the network folding left and right. We were doing a movie on Ted Kennedy, and he was running for senator again, and his office called and told the network they didn't want us to do it, and so the network didn't do the movie.
Oh, wow.
So, there's a lot of that stuff that goes on. I agree with what Francis said. What I try to tell people, especially if they're trying to, first of all, you can't do a project that's going to sell based on what's happening or what someone just sold or whatever, because it changes every 2.5 seconds. You have no control over that. So to waste your time trying to mimic what other people have just done or whatever, which unfortunately the networks do that too, which is, they don't always know what's good for them. But I tell people, pick something that you love, that you are passionate about, especially if you have a project and you're trying to pitch it to people, if you're not excited about it, why the heck should they be excited about it? Why should they give you a show or give you a deal at the network or whatever if you're going, well, you have to, and that's what sustains you. I'm sure sustains all of us, is we're doing something we really care about. And so we go through all the ups and the downs and the insanity because it's something interior in us, and it's strong, and it keeps us going.
Great, thank you. Adam, have you ever seen direct impact or change because of something that you created? And if so, what was that experience like for you?
That's a great question. And I don't know that I have seen a direct impact. I can say that I have seen things on social media that I do that are similar. So is that a direct impact of me? I don't know. Or because I've started doing those things, am I just more aware that they're out there? And did I start to do them because I was influenced by someone else?
When did your podcast begin?
My podcast began in 2019 or either 2018 or 2019. I have to double check, but one of those years.
And because I know that when I started doing my podcast, all of a sudden it seemed like everybody and his brother, if they had a computer and a camera, were doing a podcast. Did that frustrate you as well or not?
No, it didn't, because I do feel like, and I think either Barbara or Sharon, I think, mentioned it earlier about that we sort of need to have a space for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there is room for everybody to have their own podcast, because everybody has a different point of view. I mean, both you and I, Richard, are interviewers, but I think our styles are different. Mm-hmm. And so your podcast is going to be different than what I would put out on my podcast. So I feel like there's room for both of us. So I don't think that there's millions of podcasts out there. I don't feel like it's something that I think if you want to try it, you should try it.
And I'll say something that I say to all of my artistic friends. Stay in your lane and keep your blinders on. The comparison game will destroy you. Do the best work that you can do, and then go after that. Sharon, I want to ask you, how do you balance the emotional weight of producing? Because Pamela, Sharon, Francis, myself, those of us in cabaret, it's not just about us showing up, learning our songs, going on and doing what we need to do. It's everything else that we need to do before those lights and the announcement comes on before the show. How do you balance the two in your life?
I walk a lot. Produce the serotonins and endorphins too, because all of us want to be the best we can, and I know I push myself to be beyond probably what is healthy, and then I have to find outlets from that intensity, and it could be going out to dinner, it could be making a dinner, it could be and I do have tremendous support. I have a family that I put through a lot, but they are there for me. But it is a challenge, and I think you have to have be very good at a lot of things, as Richard and Pamela know. You have to be very detail oriented, and then at a certain time you have to let it go, because as an artist, when you get up there on the stage, you have to dig deep and let all those other frivolous things. You just have to be there and let everything else go. It's a challenge.
It is. And Pamela, why this show at this time? Excuse me.
Well, I knew I had another show in me, and I did something impactful for women, even though the show is really for men too. But I think, when Mark Nadler directs my show, by the way, he directs it as well. When we sit together and we think about, the things I want to say and the songs I want to sing, sometimes it just all comes together. And this show did.
Oh, no.
Okay, there you are. That only happens when you mention Mark's name. I love you, Mark.
Yeah. So it came together, girl talk, because that's what we do. Girls talk. And the show is about us and how we live our lives and to the best of our abilities, with a lot of emotion and fun and a lot of stories that are part of my life that when you hear, you will identify with, I am sure.
Well, I am hoping to be there on Wednesday night.
Oh, me too.
Great.
Yes. But I want to thank you all for being here. We've reached we've run out of time, but I'm going to give each and every one of you a chance to have your final say today. It could be about anything that we spoke about that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you want to leave everyone with today. Francis, I want you to go out and I want you to celebrate all that Provincetown is, because I just absolutely love Provincetown. And a shameless plug, I'm going to be there doing my show, everything you always want to know about Richard Skipper, but we're afraid to ask, on Monday night, August 4th at 8:30 p.m. Dan Pardo, my musical director, his wife, Chrissy, will be opening for me. So it's a lot of fun. It's a fun show, and it celebrates what each of us brings to the table. I love what Marilyn May always says. She says, the true star of any show is the audience. And I truly believe that. And that's my crux when I'm putting something together. I'm going to give my final remarks, and then I'm going to pick one of you, and then you will pick the next person, and so on. And when the final person says goodbye, I will end the show, so you don't have to worry about ending this. So when I pick the next person, you'll pick the person after that. But I end every show with the same message. And that is to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. As you're going through your emails or your database or your phone list or whatever that is, the seventh name that you come up to today, reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, a phone call. and let that person know the impact that they've made on your life. Some of you know this. I left social media at the end of February, and so I've made a point each day of reaching out to 7 people that I haven't spoken to in a while. I know that seems like a lot, but I have. I don't speak with all those people because you have to realize, and this is the sad part, a lot of them have passed on because life has happened. We've gone on, and I haven't reached out to somebody in a long time. And I'm finding I am shocked by the number of people that I'm reaching out with now who either passed away during or since COVID that you may not even know that are part of your database and your circle of friends. So please, one person to reach out to today with a phone call. It's not asking for a lot. It's important. And I want to hear how that goes for all of you. I have a dear friend, Barbara, you know him very well, Sean Moniger. And he says, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different sized boats. And I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. And with that, I'm going to leave the screen. And Barbara, I'm turning it over to you.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say, Richard, thank you so much for inviting me to be on this show with all these lovely, wonderful people who have such really great stories in terms of what you're doing with your lives. And I wish you all good luck. And I hope we see each other again in some other way. I think that for myself, because, you know, people keep saying to me, well, are you retired? And I say, no. I mean, they're trying to say that I'm retired, but I'm not retired. And I think that what that means for me is I think if you, especially if you're a creative person, well, I'll speak for myself, you can't, just because you reach a certain age, you don't stop thinking or feeling or having ideas or whatever. And so what I'm trying to do, and I'm a hyphenate now after all the years of my life and my experience. I'm a playwright, I'm a book author, I was a network programmer, I'm a writer of television. And I'm finding ways, and I'm still working at it, to be creative, to use what God, I believe that God gave me a talent, God, whatever the universe, and that it was given to me not to shut it away, but to use it, because thank you, God, you know, so till the day I die, I'm going to be doing something, even if it's not something that's going to sell or whatever, but being with creative people is like medicine, you know, but good medicine. It like keeps me going. So thank you for sharing this day with me at this hour. It was wonderful. And I have to pick someone? Okay.
Yes.
Adam.
All right. I am going to say thank you, Richard, for having me today. And it was so nice meeting everybody. I hope through our conversation that you realize there are many ways to advocate for someone or for a cause. And art is a great way to do that. And Frances, I have been itching to say this the whole hour, but I have been thinking of Bette Midler since the name of your show, because she does a great rendition of Miss Otis Regrets. So if I had to RSVP to your show, I would unfortunately, though, have to say, Miss Otis regrets she's unable to lunch today.
I appreciate it. You do have an opportunity on July 20th. It'll be at Pingy in New York. Just throwing it out there.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for watching. And I have to pick somebody. So, Frances, I'm going to choose you.
Okay. Well, I mean, as everybody else did, I will start by thanking Richard Skipper. As I said at some point, I'm still very much at the beginning of my cabaret career, so I'm very much figuring things out, and this was certainly the first live conversation I've ever had to have, and thank you for your patience with me stumbling over my words and everything that comes along with that. That being said, it was an important conversation to have, even if I didn't have it articulately. Advocacy in the arts is what I believe really propels society forward in a lot of different ways. And thank you for giving me the opportunity for attempting to have the conversation at any rate. And with that, I think that's all I have to contribute. So if I may, I'll go over to my right here with Sharon.
Thank you. Richard, thank you for the opportunity and to stimulate all our brains to think what advocacy of the arts really means to us and how we can promote that through what we all do. I just know that the audience is so important to me. I always say this, the stage may glitter, but it's the audience that glows. And I hope that I can continue to do what I do and that people should find something in their lives that they are as passionate about, and they should pursue it because there is nothing more fulfilling. And so I hope to pass that on to all of you and anybody who's listening, and never give up. It's trite, but it's true. You just have to keep going for doing something you love. So I'm glad I do what I do.
Richard, I guess I'm the last one in and the last one out. Thank you so much for having me today and for being such a great support for me. I still feel like I'm so new at this cabaret business, and to have support means very, very much to me. So advocacy, it's such a big word. I think as performers, we do that without even knowing that we're doing it. And because we're doing something that we love, you just said that, Sharon, and because we're doing something that we love, it inspires others to do the same thing. So I hope that I can continue to do that and inspire others. And again, thank you so much for having me on today. And I hope I see you this week at my show.